Hello friends, welcome to Coding Host YouTube channel. In this video, we are doing the program print increasing using recursion. So if you have seen my last video of recursion basics, so in that video I have shown you the program to print numbers in decreasing. So this is the same program for printing the numbers in decreasing. But in this video, I will be teaching you how to print numbers in increasing. Suppose we have passed here number 10. So right now this program will only print the number from 10 to 1. So if I run this program, you can see it is printing the numbers from 10 to 1. So what we have to do that it can print these numbers from increasing order. If I tell you that we only have to change the location of one line, then this program will start printing the numbers from increasing order. So I think you will not believe me, but now I will show you magic. So you can see this println statement. So first we are printing the current number, and then we are calling this method again with n-1. But now I will print this number later, and first I will call the method for n-1. So what will happen? So let's run the program. Now you can see that it is printing the number from 1 to 10. So we only have changed the location of this println line, and this program is printing numbers in increasing order. So let's see how this program is working now. So I will explain you this program for the example of 5. So I will be passing here 5. So you can see that first we are passing 5 in this int n. So right now value of this n is 5. So after that I will write here line number 1 and line number 2. For this if statement, I will not write here any line number because it is our base case and it will execute in the last. So you can see when the value of n is 5, what will happen? You can see that this if statement will not execute because value of n is not equal to 0. So this if condition it will not execute. So I will write here x. So after that we are not printing this number. First we are calling this method again with n-1. So you can see that this first line will execute and it will call this method again for n-1. So 5 minus 1 is 4. So when the value of n is 4, we know that this if condition is not going to execute. So I will be writing here x. Then this first line will execute, and you can see this second line has not executed when value of n is 5, and when the value of n is 4, this second line is still not executed. So this first line will execute and it will call this method again with n-1. So 4 minus 1 is what? 3. So when the value of n is 3, first we know that this if statement is not going to execute. So I will write here x. Then this first line will execute. Then it will call this method again with n-1. So 3 minus 1 is 2. So when the value of n is 2, this if statement is again not going to execute. So I will be writing here x. Then this first line will again execute and it will calling this method again for n-1. So 2 minus 1 is 1, and when the value of n is 1, this if statement is not going to execute. So I will write here x. Then again this first line will execute and it will call this method again for n-1. So 1 minus 1 is what? 0. When the value of n is 0, what will happen? So when the value of n is 0, we will return, and when we will return, we will again go back in this method when the value of n was 1. So we know that when the value of n was 1, this first line only executed, this second line remain. So now this time this second line will execute. So now in the output it will print 1. So after that when the second line will execute, this method will go back for the value of n when it was 2, because still line number 2 is remaining to execute. So you can see that because this line number 2 has remained to execute for all these values, that's why this function is going back. But if no line will remain to execute, then this program will stop here. So when the value of n is 2, again this second line will execute and it will print n, and the value of n is 2, then it will go back again. This second line will execute for the value of n, which is 3. So now this second line will execute and it will print the value of n, which is 3. After that again it will go back for the value of 4. Now this second line will execute and it will print here value of n, which was 4. After that again it will go back when the value of n was 5. So this second line will execute and in the output we will get 5. So you can see that this is how this program is calling itself. And one thing I forget to tell you, that you know that when we are going from 5 to 0, that time only this line number 1 was executing and the second line was not executed. So because of that, in the memory this function is taking the value of n for every number. So from 5 to 0 it has taken like 6 n variables in the memory. But you can see that when any method will execute completely, so that memory will be released. So when the value of n was 0, we only return. So memory for the n, when it was 0, it will get released from the memory. After that, when the value of n was 1, you can see that when we were going back from 0 to 1, after that second line also execute for 1, and after that there is no line remain to execute in this method when the value of n was 1. So because of that, memory for this 1 will also get removed. After that, when the value of n was 2, the second line executed memory for this method when the value of n was 2, it will also get released. So same will happen for all these values in the memory. The memory will get released when all the lines in the method have been executed for every value of the n. So in the last, all the memory will be released. So this is how recursion is working in this program. Thanks for watching.